I'm fisheries biologist Judd Krautzer, and one of the great things about being an angler in Vermont is that no matter where you live in the state, there's a great fishing opportunity nearby. The challenge can be, with so many great opportunities, it can be hard to know where to start. So what I want to do in this video is give you some tips on how to use the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department's Law Digest and our website to find a place to go fishing near you. I'll also give you some tips on how to catch some brook trout on some small brook trout streams. Let's start by looking at the department's Law Digest. This is a nice glossy magazine looking document that you can get where you bought your fishing license or at a Fish and Wildlife office. Within the Law Digest is this section that is called Where the Fish Are. This breaks the state into regions, and it lists many of the water bodies in those regions and many of the more popular fish species that you can find in these different water bodies. On the table, the P represents present, that species is present. The C indicates that the fish is common, which would indicate that you have a reasonable chance of catching that fish there. So most of the lakes and ponds are included in here. What we do not have included is most of the rivers and streams, just because there are so many rivers and streams in the state that it would be impossible to list all of them in a table like this. Also in the Law Digest is this map. This map is not intended to help you find a particular place to fish. The purpose of this map is to show you that there are opportunities to fish for trout all across the state. The rivers and streams that are highlighted in red are places that we stock with trout, but then all those other rivers and streams that are in those areas that are either green or orange, those are places where there are wild trout that you can fish for. And so this at least shows you that there are opportunities all across the state. And I'll come back to this later when we look at our website and show how you can use this information to actually find a particular stream to fish. Next, let's check out our website. And this is the Vermont Fish and Wildlife website. And if you click on fish, you'll come to this page. And a great place to start if you're looking for places to fish would be to click on this fishing opportunities page. Clicking on fishing opportunities brings you to this page. And if you scroll down, you'll see lots of useful information that you can find here about different sport fish. You can learn about the different species we have and some information on where to find them and how to target them. You can find information on good places to take kids fishing. That would be the family-friendly fishing opportunities. And there's more details about bass and trout. You can spend a lot of time learning a lot of useful information here that will help you on your way. If we go back to our home page again and hover over fish, bring this menu up again, you'll see View Master Angler Entries. So you can click on this and find some more information. The Master Angler program can be another place to find information, especially on particular species that you might be interested in. Because in this program, anglers are sending us information and pictures of large fish that they're catching around the state. So you could come to the Master Angler webpage and you could select a species that you're interested in and bring up many entries for those species and find water bodies where those species are being caught. If you're interested in fishing for trout, there's even more information available. We're back here at the department's homepage. You click on fish. That brings up this page again where we had fishing opportunities, and we also have the fish stocking schedule. You can click on that. And that brings up this page, which has some information on what's been stocked, but you can also click on here, see what's been stocked. And that will give you the opportunity to search for where fish have been stocked near you, by town, by county. Maybe there's a particular species you're interested in. So this will give you an opportunity to search for where trout are being stocked. But as I indicated earlier, there are way more opportunities to fish for wild trout in Vermont than there are for stock trout. And to find some useful information on where to find wild trout, you can go back to the home page, hover over fish, which brings up this menu again, and you can go down here to online regulation tool and click on that. That brings you here, and you can come down here and click on interactive map system. This map can sometimes take a while to load, but when it does, it should look like this. And this is a map where you can see fishing regulations for different water bodies, and also you can see our wild brook trout waters. And it'll show data similar to the map that was in the Law Digest. You'll have to click on this to turn it on. This is what the map looks like with the brook trout waters on. So all of these areas that now look pink, those are areas where the streams in those areas have a high likelihood of having wild brook trout in them. And again, that large map isn't all that helpful, but you can zoom in on any area you're interested in. And for example, here there's this stream here in Stratford that is a place where we expect to have wild brook trout. So that might be a place to fish for them if that's what you're interested in. Most of what I've talked about so far has been about how to find a specific water body to fish. Once you've chosen a water body, the next challenge is finding the particular locations on that water body that you want to fish, where you're going to have the best chance of catching fish. And each species is going to be different, but let's use brook trout as an example because they're a species that are available all across the state. We have wild, self-sustaining populations of brook trout in thousands of miles of cold streams throughout the state. The first thing you might want to do if you're looking for a new brook trout stream would be to take the water temperature. If it's a hot summer day and the water temperature is less than 70 degrees, there's a good chance that brook trout will be able to live there and be present because brook trout need cold water. If you don't have a thermometer or if it's not a hot summer day, you can usually spot a brook trout stream just by looking at it. So if it's a stream that has forested stream banks, so there's mature trees that are providing shade for the stream, and especially if the stream comes down off of higher elevations, there's a good chance that that's going to be a stream that stays cold all summer long. And if that's the case, it's probably going to have some wild brook trout in it. When trying to find a specific location to fish on a stream, it can be helpful to think about the needs of the brook trout. One need is that they need to find food. And in a stream, most of the food that brook trout are getting is drifting down from upstream. It's insects that are either in the water or on the surface of the water that are drifting by. So those things are drifting by in the current. But swimming in the current takes a lot of energy. So the trout will typically find a place where they can rest in relatively slow water that is near some fast water that is bringing the food by. Another really important need for brook trout is to avoid being eaten themselves. They often live in these small, often shallow streams where they are vulnerable to being eaten by birds and by mammals like mink and otter. And so while they're locating themselves in places that make it easy for them to find food, they also need to find a place where there is cover. Cover is what protects them from predators. And that cover can take a variety of forms. It could be surface turbulence or white water on the surface of the water that breaks up the surface so that predators cannot see them from above. It could be deep water. If you can find a deep pool, those are often good places to fish because those are places where it is harder for predators to get to the brook trout. And it can also be large pieces of woody material or trees that have fallen into the stream or that are overhanging, because this provides a place for brook trout to hide from predators as well. Now that you've found a particular location to fish, the next question is, how do you catch those fish? And really, it's hard to beat a little bit of worm on a hook. These fish are used to looking for insects and worms floating by in the current. So if you can cast that upstream and let it drift down through, and if there are brook trout present, often they're going to attack that. It can be helpful to fish from below and cast upstream in a lot of cases, because the fish are usually facing upstream. So you're coming from downstream where they can't see you, and you cast up above them and let your worm drift down through where they are. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this helpful, and it will help you to get out and catch some fish and have fun out there.